those types of things. So let's talk about GHQ and what they're doing. So they're very angry right now with the screens being whited out, them not being able to see anything, them desperately trying to get access to any kind of computer system with which to regain control or regain some kind of a gatekeeper type quality for money coming through. Mm-hmm. I did receive some phone calls over the weekend wanting to talk to me about giving them access and giving them authority back, but that would be a no from me. And they're a little bit on what I call tilt right now. So there were talks, for example, over the weekend, some closed door meetings to where the U.S. basically had decided that they could not afford to move forward with war in the Middle East. They could not afford to go to war with Taiwan. We talked about this. And they could not afford to. They're going to do the bare minimum by NATO standards. Mm-hmm. And then apparently this is unacceptable to global headquarters and to what remains of the Order of the Dragon. Because Iran has threatened Israel. They're saying they have long-range missiles now, that they are going to attack Israel. And, of course, all of this, coincidentally, is supposed to be happening during the eclipse. You know, they promised on the 8th, which also happens to be the last day of Ramadan, for those of you that don't know. Now, there are a lot of Turkish forces moving around through the Middle East as well. Turkey is a member of NATO, as you know. So when you can't get the U.S. to allegedly be face front in the war or to participate, they're pushing on all of NATO's allies to continue with this process. So no surprise that we're seeing Turkey move all over the place. We still have a lot of operatives, and whatever the military, U.S. military was discussing behind closed doors obviously went out the window, as there have been many attempts to move lots of equipment, military equipment, coming from the United States throughout the Middle East right now in preparation for the events they plan on that they plan to take place over the next several days. The orders coming from GHQ, because they are highly monitored at this point. They are definitely on the radar, and we are monitoring everything that they're doing very closely, including the few that arrived here in Durango yesterday and today. So I'm not sure why they're here, and I hope it has nothing to do with me, because if it does, then they're going to be very disappointed people. The orders that they're giving are very erratic. It's almost like a person in full-on panic. There is no strategy behind what they're doing. Even when I try to map it out, like where are they going with this? Is it try to trigger something? You know, I'm not really sure what they're doing. I can't figure it out. I mean, I know where they're going. I know that they're moving equipment here. I know about the planned war between Iran and Israel, which has been going on for over a decade now. You know, allegedly they've been planning this war. I know about the Taiwan situation with China, watching that very closely. Putin and his conscription announcement. Just so you know, Russia has always had conscription, mandatory 1 year in the military. That is not anything new. Changing of the age, maybe, on which they have to serve until, that kind of thing maybe has changed. There has also been a declaration of war against Ukraine by Russia now at least 4 or 5 times in Russian news over the last 2 weeks.
What does that do to declare war against Ukraine? They're at war, aren't they?
Well, that's my point. It's like Washington D.C. and Congress passing budgets, and then all of a sudden they're trying to pass a budget again in the next few days, even though the last budget passed and was signed by the president just a week or two before.
Yeah, it does make sense.
This is what I'm trying to say. It's erratic.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. We are going to talk about what happened in Taiwan and how the media campaign is so ridiculous. I can't even. It's terrible. So that's what you're seeing, and all of the upheaval is predominantly coming from that group with no clear strategy and no clear leadership. And as far as I can tell, they are working together with some of the Q people and what is left of the SSP in hopes that this solar eclipse does something for them. Now, behind the scenes, we'll talk about the expectations of this group. Mm. So the group has been told that they have, and there is information, they do have some information written down, that they have information in orders and instructions of possible events that will take place from now through the year 2030. This is what they believe they have. This is what the SSP believes they have. Now, even though we are a few years into this information and nothing that they thought was going to happen has happened yet, they plan fully, like horses with blinders on, to keep waiting for these respective events to take place in accordance with alleged information that came from Project Looking Glass. Wow. Now, I can tell you that information that they have, anything past the year 2012, is 100% a lie. Now, did they get it from some alien race that used to be here, maybe at the Octagon? Did they get it from some coven somewhere? I don't know who wrote the information, but that was all pulled directly out of their wrong orifice. Because there's no information that was correct that came out of Looking Glass, seeing beyond the year 2012. Yeah. That's why everybody believed the world was going to end. Mm-hmm. But that was just when the world began to change. Right. So they are actually going off of an entire book full of lies. That's important for them to know, and it's important for all of us to know, because the fear that is coming out in the media regarding events that are taking place is just that. It's just fear. Mm-hmm. But they really believe that there's an event about to happen and that they have special information from special people or from beyond or some alien race or something that indicates that these events are going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, predictions of earthquakes to come. There have been many predictions about earthquakes. Some are saying California. That was supposed to take place a few weeks ago. Nothing happened there. Was there a mechanism that could have possibly allowed that to happen at some point in time? The answer to the question is yes. There was something there on the fault line, multiple different things on the fault line so that they could blow, and I'm not talking about the human beings, the fault line at any time. I'm talking about non-humans. Sure. Now, yesterday or last night's event in Taiwan. Let's talk about the base root behind this. Have you ever heard the story, Sunny, about the Milk Ocean?
I don't think so.
Okay, there's a lot of information out there on the internet. A lot of it is coming through the Hindus. It's coming through India. There's a lot of talk about it in mythology, saying it was the connection to Lord Vishnu in their world. There used to be a lot of information in Russian mythology about the Milk Ocean as well. And a lot of prophecies about the Milk Ocean and how the Milk Ocean disappeared.
Okay.
Now, the Milk Ocean is actually a thing. It's not water. You could call it a source version of a gatekeeper program. So the ultimate say as to what would have happened to the gate, known as Keystone Earth and the Gateway in Zero Point Earth, would have been up to source. So although GHQ and, we are the 9, you remember that on the Q clock, and, and all these people believed they had the only gatekeeper program on Earth, that was false. It was always false. And the ultimate end say, a ripcord, a dead man switch, if you will, would have been with source. So even if these people got out of line, or non-humans at some point, like Marduk and his sea control, got out of line, source and anti-source, for lack of a better term, could have pulled the ripcord and blocked the gate at any time. And the Milk Ocean was a part of that program. So gateways and overlays on gateways and membranes on gateways in order to prevent catastrophic events are often done with essence, energy, consciousness, matter, frequencies. There's all kinds of things that can block a gateway. And this Milk Ocean, for lack of a better term, was both the essence of source and anti-source. So it was like their gatekeeper key.
So it was some sort of body of water. Well, not I say body of water, but body of liquid that was a source and anti-source. And did it look kind of creamy or white? Is that why it got its name?
Yeah, and I would call it not quite a cream color, but a very pale gray, because you would have had both sides involvement.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, in the gatekeeper program. So that's why they call it the Milk Ocean.
And then was it in a certain location or no?
Yes. It was a very large area that it extended through. You could go from the northern part of Russia all the way through the majority of China and down, throughout most of Pakistan and India, throughout Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, most of Eastern Europe through to Romania. So it was a very large area where this ocean existed. Now, as far as the humans and the SSP are concerned, they have been trying to utilize this or find a way to utilize it to their benefit for a long time. But again, it's a mixture of both light and dark. You cannot isolate just the dark portion for your purposes.
Okay.
It doesn't work that way. And those types of things would have only been utilized by, let's just say, others, in some cases, and by covenant only. So although the gatekeeper program could only be removed, which it has been, by the way, by Source itself last night.
When you say removed, does that mean the Milk Ocean isn't there?
Yeah, they don't need it anymore. It's not needed anymore. There's no gatekeeper needed because there's no gate.
So did it change color? Is it all white?
It's not needed anymore. So it's not a gatekeeper program anymore.
Yeah.
The matter itself would flow through a lot of caverns, with the predominant location being in Kazakhstan. For an entryway point. I would say it's been replaced by Source Essence for sure, but it's not acting as a gatekeeper program anymore or a blockage on any kind of a gate.
Visually, does it look the same? Like if someone were to see it today, it just kind of looks the same. They don't really know the contents of what's within it.
They don't know the contents of what was in it. And I don't think they ever really knew the content of what was in it and how it was controlled and because if they did, we would have seen a lot more going on in these different areas for sure, I think. Sure. Because they would probably try to turn it all dark and think it's like a dial of destiny kind of thing, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with that whatsoever. You cannot grow the darkness where there is a covenant that exists between Source itself to place this there in the first place. Okay. So now, when it was changed, let's just say transmuted and changed, then there was a trigger that was put in place by non-human beings in several places in the world that could have triggered earthquakes. So what we saw in Taiwan is not a 7.5. I know that our videos and all of this information that has been pre-planted is telling us otherwise, but we didn't register anything over a 4.5. Not to say that that's bad, not bad. There was also an earthquake in Alaska as well. Now, in specific locations, of which we only had 5 left in the world, it happened to trigger these dormant machines, alien technology, not human technology, in a few different locations. And the one that actually triggered I think it was Taishang Mountain in China, which is where the signal came from that went to Taiwan, was not a human thing. The humans in China did not do it. For once, the Chinese deep state did not do this. Actually came from, and I'm going to try real hard to say this. It's one of the largest mountains in Siberia. It's in Russia, and it's Klyuchskaya Sopka Mountain. And I can spell it for you if you want to look it up and take a look. It's Klyuchskaya. And then the second word is Sopka. So the signal started triggering once the ocean morphed into something else, but they were counting on this triggering earthquakes all over and hopefully during the eclipse. So they got all excited yesterday when we actually had somewhat of an earthquake. But I will say where China's involvement came in, and this is China's deep state, their involvement came in was making sure that there were some buildings that fell down. There were some landslides in certain mountains and certain areas of Taiwan. So they, yes, the ground did shake. So there was no surprise when some of the buildings fell down. You could call this 9/11 light type event, which was definitely staged. And they took advantage of a potential event that they thought was going to take place based on false information that they received from allegedly Project Looking Glass. So the small 3.5 that was actually reported correctly in Alaska from, I think it's called Titan Mountain, if I remember correctly, in Alaska, was where that particular bit of technology was. We also had something in Medicine Mountain in California. And there was, I think, 1 or 2 other locations on Earth, which we took care of as well. But the expectation for more earthquakes to occur within the United States in the path of the eclipse is never going to take place. The technology isn't there to make it happen. did we, I guess you would say, unknowingly trigger something a little bit early because it wasn't needed anymore? Yeah, we did, I guess. But it wasn't what they're saying it is in social media. The ramping up of all the fear that's coming from that region and that area would be things like there was a tsunami in Japan today. Do you want to hear what the tsunami was? It was a 30-centimeter tsunami, which is the equivalent for you Americans of about 11 inches.
We did report earlier that there were warnings of tsunamis that were retracted. So that must have been the reason why that they ended up.
Well, some news channel actually reported a 30-centimeter tsunami.
I don't think that's the proper definition of tsunami. I mean, I haven't looked up the actual definition recently, but I'm thinking the wave has to hit a quota. That's probably not it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be of a certain height. The water recedes, you know. I'm pretty sure that the Japanese people, based on what happened in 2011 and, know the definition of tsunami.
Yeah.
But this is not it.
No.
But this is what I'm trying to tell you. You have inexperienced operatives trying to run a war in the Middle East, transporting equipment all over the place for no pay, but a title.
Yeah.
That's it. And the hopes that the events in this super secret information is going to come to fruition. I couldn't figure out what the heck they're doing, like where they're going. So they're looking through their books, and they were told if they create this war and do this and do that, this gateway will open up on the solar eclipse and make sure you kill the red heifer on the Temple Mount, which is going to make the Islamic people very angry, and do this and do that, and and you'll have yourself an antichrist, and here's the recipe.
Wow.
Yep. So that is the explanation behind the earthquake. That is exactly where the signal came from. It went to a mountain in China, a dormant volcano there, because they always put these things in volcanoes.
Mm-hmm.
And it triggered under the water because there was no power behind it. Let's just say the dark energy is what is needed to truly trigger these machines. There was a small earthquake, yes, but I believe that the 5 locations that we got this morning are the last 5. We don't see anything else at this moment, but we're going to continue to keep looking just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the power behind it is gone.
Yeah.
So I don't expect any kind of disaster. I don't expect any kind of change. I don't expect anything to happen on the 8th, but we're remaining ever diligent, just to make sure that nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Middle East, the Americans are absolutely still participating. There is a lot of preparations going on. There are a lot of flights going round and round and round and round and round there. Those are quote unquote super secret meetings where no one can hear and no one can listen, to include the United States State Department. So the United States State Department officially announced they were visiting UNESCO sites all over the world, of which there are many in the Middle East. But they didn't actually say that they were going to go around and around for about 4 hours in a circle while they had a super secret meeting with some people from Qatar, also known on a political map as Clintonville, and a few other countries. I think it was even the Singapore military was there. Trying to think of who else was flying around, but definitely Turkey, of course, Jordan. They're all Rothschild-controlled areas of the world. The royalty there are Rothschild in most of those locations as well. And Iran obviously is Green Dragon territory. So there's no surprise there. Is Iran going to attack Israel? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, allegedly there's been some drone strikes on Israel. I don't know who claimed it. I forget. I didn't look, I should say. I'm telling you these things because there's a lot of fear going on right now about a lot of things to come in the next few days. There's talk about war in the Middle East. Everybody's panicking. And when you see what's going on behind the scenes and you're hearing the conversations that they're having on the plane, there's a lot of talk about money. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of talk about, what do we have that we can move around? How many troops? We need the Americans' involvement officially.
So, I mean, why do all this? Is this about the eclipse? Is this trying to drum up fear around, just having us manifest something to intensify, some dark energy they're expecting? Is that what this is right now?
Even after looking through and thumbing through these orders, instructions, and possible events to take place between now and 2030, I still don't know what the heck they're doing. I still don't know the end result.
Yeah, there's no clear plan, obviously. But it would make sense that they're trying to do something before the eclipse, right? Doesn't that kind of make sense? They're expecting bad stuff to happen with the eclipse, so.
Assuming they are trying to trigger the earthquake machines? I don't know. They're all talking about earthquakes. I know there were huge bribes being offered to the State Department for their involvement in some things as well in the Middle East. All promises and no delivery. It's not that they didn't agree. Of course they agreed to participate, and I'm sure they'll be back here, offering something or other, to people. Probably those that have contracts with the State Department to provide weapons to the Middle East, but who knows if they will or they won't. Everybody's still waiting for a paycheck of some substance. They do get small payments here and there, down payments, and then they never follow through. I've seen that happen a number of times, but I've never seen anybody get full payment for what they have provided in a long time, several years now. As for these GHQ people and what they're doing around here, who knows? Maybe the locals just needed some entertainment. I don't know. I'm sure that's what it is, actually. But are they going to continue after a lot of their colleagues died? In Norfolk, as an example, for some of the things they were doing yesterday. There was a few other locations in the States as well as outside the States where we've been hunting these people down like dogs. I don't know the answer to the question. I don't know how long they're going to continue until we find them all and they're dead.
Yeah, I just can't imagine them, with nothing going their way. And every time a date is promised or an event is promised, it just doesn't happen. I can't imagine. You think could they really hang on until 2030? Not that anything that they do would even have any significance to us by that time. But I just can't imagine a human just holding on to that. That's so depressing.
It does cause some problems, for not for us per se, but for people in general, obviously. They want power, money, and control. That's what they'd like to have. And I'm not sure how anything they're doing is going to help them achieve that. They are in a failing business. They refuse to start a different business or go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Where they could maintain some semblance of dignity. But at this point, like I said, and I repeat, especially after listening to all the plane meetings, listening to what they're doing in the Middle East, listening to who's calling Iran, who's prodding these people to move forward, how much they've been promised, how much power they have been promised in the region. They're very ill, all of them. And I really do not think in any way, shape, or form that there is going to be any hope at this point of fixing government. And I've been saying that for a while, but I thought I would repeat it because the governments are more broken than humanity is, believe it or not. We just have to be careful of a few things. Number one, the oppressed becoming the oppressor.
Yeah.
That's what happened with the assemblies. We cannot let that happen again. You personally, singularly, by yourself, including myself, are not the savior of humanity. You will not become the savior of humanity. Even if you learn to walk on water, you are still not the savior of humanity.
Right.
There is no human standing beside you that is any lesser than you are. I've seen that happen too. You're going to rally everybody and you're going to tell everybody where to go and what to do to solve all their problems all of a sudden. And that is not the case. There has to be some kind of semblance of order amongst us. We are supposed to be the sane ones here. We are supposed to be the ones that teach people a different way by walking the walk and not just talking the talk. There's plenty of evangelists on TV that talk the talk.
Yeah.
And then they get off the television and they do some pretty horrendous things, as you know. And, we are not those people. If we say we're going to do something, we need to do it. We need to show them how to work together as a community for the benefit of all. And the time for doing that is now. There's a lot of people waking up right now that were not awake before, that are trying to understand and disseminate information. We can't yell at them for asking questions. We have to try to be kind to these people with an expectation of just reminding yourself, where you were 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 years ago. Where were you? Or maybe it's been 20 years for you, but you still remember those days when you were searching, for information. What's happening? What's going on? Who's telling the truth? Who's not telling the truth? How do I use my discernment? How do I figure it out? And with so much fear flying all over the place, it's confusing, and it's intended to be confusing. Clear out the noise. Focus on, and this is something I've said before too, focus on actionable items. I watched people scream at each other for hours about whether the earth was flat or round. I know you laugh, but it's true.
I know.
And they're like ready to jump through a computer screen and kill the other person because they don't agree. But you're not going to unflatten it if it is flat. Let's just say I'm not going to, and you're not going to unround it if it is round.
Yeah, there are definitely more pressing things at hand.
Well, what's the point?
I think people are just so tired of being lied to, right? That when they find something they think is truth, they latch onto it so tightly and they'll defend it, I don't know. Well,
there's so much evidence, right? You can get a telescope on your own, okay, all by yourself, and go look at the sky and look for other planets. You can see other planets, different times of the year, different times of the day, from a nice telescope, rent one. I'm sure you could probably rent one. And look at the shape of every other planet in our galaxy, the ones that you can see right here from Earth. And if you find any flat ones, you let me know. Because why would all the other planets in our galaxy be round and this is the only flat one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you, since we're on the topic, I went through that stage of questioning what's real with regard to the shape of the Earth. This is several years ago now. But for me, I was looking at circumstantial evidence. I was looking at the fact that there's no way NASA is telling the truth, right? So what else is NASA lying about? That fake moon landing is a bunch of crap. I knew that.
Yeah.
So there's circumstantial stuff that, and, you go up in a plane and everything still kind of looks flat. So you're using what information you have and, but I think it's more of like your subconscious knows that you're being lied to. So then the question becomes, well, some of these are just rabbit holes just to confuse you even more and make you seem like a lunatic, right?
Yeah.
So you got to kind of figure out what's real and what's not. And that's one of the first things that I think a lot of people, even really smart people, question, because I never questioned the shape of the planet until I started waking up and realizing that we're being lied to about everything. So it's just, it's just one of those things. And there's other examples too. It's not just flat Earth people, but you're right. Everyone, they're starting to search for information and they know they're being lied to. So why not change it's just one of those traps you fall into. And there's many of them.
And there is, and there's many of them right now.
Yeah.
And I say this because you can sit there all day and look at information. Was it a do? Was it not a do? Was it this kind of weapon? Was it that kind of weapon? Was it this? What caused the earthquake in Taiwan? The deep state, China wanted it. The U.S. wanted it. It's a weapon. It's meant to do this. You can sit there for hours in the next coming days. I guarantee you, because this is been a little over 12 hours ago now at the time of this recording. You could sit there for hours and try to determine what kind of weapon did it, who did it, where, was it China? Was it the Iranians? Was it an Islamic terrorist group? Who was it, that caused the earthquake in Taiwan? And it's going to get bigger too. You'll probably go from 7.5 to 9 point something. And, we were mistaken. It was really an 8 something. And then, wait a minute, it was really a 3 point something. And then someone else is going to report or take it off the internet and say it was a 4 something or, whatever. You're not going to unearthquake it.
Yeah.
You're not going to go hunt down, insert terrorist group name here, insert military here, insert do weapon provider here, Lockheed Martin. Are you going to do something about it? Like, what are you going to do with this information?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we work on things that we can do and things we can change? Is it going to be a giant fundraising event so that they can fund a war over there? Yes, it is. Don't fall into the trap. If you happen to know people in Taiwan that you want to aid directly to people maybe. But just like they did with the Ukraine fundraiser, they're going to do the same thing with Taiwan. And then before you know it, you are going to be responsible for funding a war between China and Taiwan / the U.S. Yeah. So if that's what they're looking to do, create mass hysteria for the public, throw it all over social media. I went through it last night. A friend of mine called me in panic about what happened. And so I'm going through, they're like, look on Twitter, look on X. It was the same building, the same rocking train, 9,000 times. And I scrolled for a good 30 minutes while talking to my friend on the phone through the same, hashtag earthquake. Mm-hmm. Same train, same building. One other building. Potential landslide. Okay, same train, same building, over and over and over again. The videos were exactly the same of the same buildings and the same people. Not to say there wasn't a building that didn't fall down slightly, but it doesn't make any logical sense. So you have a building under construction. This is video number 1, a building under construction where it doesn't shake, it doesn't move. Now, most buildings for years now are built on almost like rollers. Have you ever been in a really high-rise building and, that's semi-modern, meaning it was built in the last 30 to 50 years? And if you're on like the top floor, you can almost feel the building move a little bit. Have you ever felt that?
Yeah.
You can feel it move a little bit. That's because it's built on rollers, for lack of a better term. Not using non-technical construction terms. Yeah. Most high-rise buildings are built this way to account for weather, to account for hurricanes, to account for earthquakes or slight tremors or earth movements. It's kind of like, if you have a house and, eventually, even if it's a brand new home, eventually the concrete cracks and it settles and it moves. And this could be detrimental, 100 floors up. So you need to take into account these types of situations, and most all modern buildings do. So this building in Taiwan that is under construction didn't even move. And yet you see some pieces of metal flying off the side.
Okay.
In the video.
Yeah.
You would see the slight movement. I'm sorry, in an earthquake situation that would cause that type of metal to fly off, you would see the movement on a video. Mm-hmm. You would definitely, it would be enough for you to see the building actually move. Mm-hmm. Now, some guy throwing some, maybe group of guys or whatever, throwing some stuff off a building does not an earthquake make. They're even bad at the movies now. Did one building fall down? Yes, it did. Now, if you know how earthquakes work and what happens if you shake the ground, you can practice this at home with, a board of some sort. And a house of cards, and see how it collapses. See which side collapses first, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Why would a building fall over only to that, in this direction or that direction? What's wrong with the foundation on the other side? Why did that not collapse? Was that reinforced recently? Why did it only fall on this side? A lot of the stuff was staged, and there's not enough evidence for me to prove to the contrary. People shaking in the train. Would that happen during an earthquake? Sure. What would happen during a 7.5 earthquake when you're at the epicenter in a train?
Right. That's disaster.
You're not going to be standing in said train rocking back and forth. No, you are not. You are absolutely not going to be. It makes no sense. Mm-hmm. But you can expect a Save Taiwan fundraising campaign.
Yeah.
That's what I expect. And I'm not saying that there weren't people hurt in these events, and I'm not saying there aren't people that are without homes right now because of these events, but I can tell you that they don't care about those people. They didn't care about the people and the citizens in Ukraine when everybody sent millions of dollars and all the stars were fundraising on every single channel, getting Airbnb involved and all these, Mila Kunis and I'm from Ukraine, she says, and all these kind of things. Is she? Yes, probably. But you see my point.
Yeah.
Actionable items you can do today. Mm-hmm. Actionable items for you to do in the future that you can plan for today. Stop wondering who's going to become the next president, because it doesn't matter. Mm-mm. Don't go stand in a voting line. Who cares? No one cares. They didn't care last election. They didn't care in any election for the last couple centuries. No one cares. No one cares what you want. They lie to you constantly in the media. Why do you care? Alt media is no different. Mm-hmm. They just find several plain folk to tell you the same story that some operative is telling you. Be careful how you spend your time and your energy. What you focus on is important. Where you put your intention is important. What do you want to see in the future? It's important. Now, you are not going to change anything that is going to happen during this eclipse. If you're focusing on it from a standpoint of what are they going to do, what could possibly happen, focusing on a positive outcome is probably the best that you can do.
Yeah.
But watching countless videos online about who blew up what is not going to help you any. Your positive intent is probably going to help a lot of people, especially if you're doing it together with others. And don't fight with each other whether the earth is flat or round. Who cares? Don't argue. Matter of fact, you shouldn't be arguing with each other for the most part at all. It's not, that energy is bad. Why? Focus on things you can achieve together as a group. Together, you will achieve many things, now and in the future. Separately, you'll be sitting there arguing with people on the internet about the earth being flat or round. Where do you want to see this world going? Focus on the things that you can change. There are things you can do. Even if you are home and you are elderly, I've heard this many, many times, if you're home, you are elderly, you can take an hour a day and focus positive intention for this planet and for those around you and for your country. Mm-hmm. Stop watching videos about who the president, the prime minister of Canada is and whether or not the royal family is dead. Who cares? That is not going to change one human being's life on this planet. Mm-hmm. Positive intention in another direction, giving people options, is going to make that change. So that's my piece for Wednesday. That's my words of wisdom for Wednesday.
Well, it's a good reminder because we can all get caught up in that. I find myself, watching like these eclipse videos, whatever. And after a while, I'm like, why did I just waste an hour of my time on this? That was not productive at all. And everyone said something different. And I'm no better off than I was before watching it. So, it would have been much better off just spending some time with my kids, and hanging out and laughing or going out for a walk and, take my dog out for a walk or whatever, So we all fall into it, but I think it's a good reminder because that is something we can control. Focus on what you can control. And that's
exactly.
I feel like I'm having a pep talk like I talk to my kids. Kids, you can control yourself. You can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do and how you behave in situations and how you react in situations.
That's right. Your reaction is solely yours.
That's right.
Now, it's a time of turmoil right now. Everybody, especially even in the people that are in the alt media and watch alt media all the time, everybody's scared, fearful. We're going to be having this conversation next Wednesday, a week from today, because the eclipse will not have happened probably by the time we are recording the news. Yeah. And we're going to be like, okay, you got yourself all worked up and here we are on Wednesday and, it passed and maybe there was some mechanisms or something like that had to be taken out, maybe some work to be done, that kind of thing. If you are so inclined and talented in that arena and you know how to do those types of things, because there's a lot of people that watch us that do, keep an eye out. Keep a watchful eye. See if you find something. See if you see something. See if you can make adjustments to the energy. It's becoming easier and easier now, even for people that have been doing it for decades. Yeah. They're finding it a lot easier. We're here to make the changes. They brought us here because of who we are. They've tortured us because of who we are. Just remember that every time life seems bad and, you feel like the frequencies are bad or the energy is terrible or something, remember how strong you are. We are still here. No matter what they've thrown at us and chemicals and trails and spraying and this and that, doesn't matter what they've done to us. We are still here. Mm-hmm. So this too shall pass. My grandmother used to say, nothing too good or too bad lasts too long. Don't worry, this too shall pass. You know, all her little idioms that she used to say over the years. But, you know, if you find yourself going through TikTok video after TikTok video about earthquakes and, you know, it's probably going to start making you feel sick. I know when I had to get on there for a while, but with our social media and that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh God, how do people watch this stuff?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, and it's China's social media channel, so you can expect to see a lot on there, a lot coming up in your feed about that kind of stuff. So take a step back, walk away, spend time with friends and family, spend time with your pets, spend time in nature, spend time by yourself. Yeah. Turn off the television set, turn off the computer, turn off the phone, leave the phone at home and go for a walk. You know, anything just to reground yourself. Take your shoes off, walk with your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, I just see the people kind of in full on panic. You know, I also see people that, you know, there was a comment where someone made the statement that they're old, they're okay with dying, you know, they're sick and, you know, there's not much I can do. And well, I understand, but there are things you can do. Mm-hmm. There is nothing that happens that cannot be reversed. It just depends on who you're listening to. Yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But remember, it's 90% your emotional and mental state that is going to affect your physical body. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing, even the most profound cure for X, whatever you're suffering from, is not going to work if your mental state and your emotional state says it's probably not going to work. Yeah. You know, that could be any kind of natural healing, whatever it is that, you know, you're trying to do to help yourself. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you're here for a reason. And maybe that's to impart wisdom to others. You know, maybe right now you can't see. Maybe something is going on with your body. Maybe you never could, you know, but you still have lots of wisdom and you've lived a long life. So, you know, impart that wisdom to others. Help people. Mm-hmm. Help yourself. Help people. Yeah. So on that note, that's pretty much. I did forget one thing. The GHQ people did actually threaten and kick the ACIO out of their facility yesterday.
I wondered why they didn't release a video this week. I bet that's why, because I follow them on YouTube, ACIO. Uh-huh. I follow some of the, you know, reports that they put out, the analysis they put out or whatever. And I'm like, that's weird. Usually comes out on, well, I thought it was Monday. I don't know. Maybe they record some of the stuff in advance. So what does that mean?
Well, they have two facilities where, remember, they were the monitors. They worked directly for Marduk at some point in time. They are the force behind the NSA. This particular section of the ACIO that I'm referring to, the computer expert, the quantum computing experts. Okay. They were here to make sure the balance was maintained. They did have some quantum computing monitoring equipment. Mm-hmm. We had talked about before. So now the actual people that knew how to run that stuff is kind of on the run. They're kind of on the run at the moment. So I don't know if they're going to be doing videos or if those people are even affiliated with the ACIO or they're affiliated with the 15 militaries in some way. Oh. Personally, I think it's the 15 militaries.
Oh, okay.
Not the actual ACIO. Okay. Which was technically a part of them at one point in time. They would get their orders and instructions through the ACIO, which would come from Marduk, in some places in the past. This is many, many years ago. So, but yes, and some members of CyberLife and the GHQ sat down and started, because remember, they all went blind.
Yeah.
It's been a week now. They've been blind. So I'm guessing they needed something so they could at least see in computers and possibly try to utilize that equipment to stop transfers, stop funding, stop, or steal money or do something, whatever their intentions were. But those facilities are no longer working.
Interesting. And you said there were 2 facilities.
There were 2 main facilities, yes, both in the U.S. We'll leave it at that. They took them both. There were other facilities in the world, but those were the two of the main facilities. And I think I want to say that happened probably 2 to 3 days ago now.
Do you think this has any real impact, though, for humanity? I mean, sometimes I listen to these reports from the ICIO, and I'm like, how are you helping us at all?
Well, they're not. That's the thing.
Yeah, but they act like they are. And I'm like, no, you're not helping humanity. I don't know what you're doing, but that's not helping.
Yeah. Do you know those guys at the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies? You know those people? God. Yes, you do. I know.
But do you think this has any real impact? Like, what does that mean for humanity? These groups are feuding, kicking people out. Does that really mean anything for us?
Well, it's just, a kind of an update.
Okay.
As to what's happening with some of the people that did not want to work on their program, so to speak. Didn't last very long. Now they're blind again. So, yeah, I wish them all the luck in the world with whatever it is they're trying to do.
And the whole white screen incident, that hasn't prompted anyone to actually reach out to you and be like, okay, we can't see anything now. Let's talk. You haven't had any wishful thinking.
But no.
Yeah. Okay.
No, there is some panic. There was a few phone calls to myself, a few phone calls to Thomas Melville, mainly just yelling and screaming.
Yeah, they're good at that.
Yeah, they just want to complain. I told Tom he needs a 900 number. Do they still do that?
So at least he can get paid when they scream at him.
Yeah.
Well, that's a thought.
Exactly.
They don't have any money.
Why moan and complain? Press 1.
Oh boy.
No. They have instructions and orders through 2030 of ridiculous events of which none have taken place. None have taken place.
Yeah.
The only thing that was probably on their list that took place was what happened in Turkey last year. But we explained that was also not a human dictated event in a remnant of the Armageddon program. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I'd rather not focus on it other than the fact of, oops, you've crossed the line. Oops, you've crossed the line. Bye-bye.
Here's your one-way ticket back to source.
Here you go.
Maybe we'll see you next time. Maybe in your next life you'll be a better being.
Well, yeah. At this point, I wouldn't even trust them if they did come forward, Sonny.
Yeah. We'll do it without them.
Yep. And we'll be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's the World Situation Report for Wednesday.
That's great. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Sonny.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good. Connect with us through our online channels. Our social media team creates clips from each newscast you can easily share with the people you care about. That's also where you'll find our UNN meme of the day. It's a great way to encourage critical thinking. Links to all of our social media sites are available at the bottom of our website at unitednetwork.earth. Let's change the